I've installed the 83 replacement, and before I did, I checked this 6U8 tube and noted the exact places where the sensitivity control would put it just into the green area, right at that line. That's with the tube in. Now I've replaced the tube with the solid state replacement. Before I do this, I should tell you something, because this is typical of working on this old equipment. After I put in the 83 tube replacement, I turned it on and the pilot light wouldn't come on. So I thought, boy, I've got a real problem. After doing quite a bit of checking, I discovered that what had happened is the pilot light had burned out. Fortunately, I have some number 44 bulbs with spares. I put a spare in, and I'm back up and working again. But for a while there, I thought it was the solid state replacement. Well, it turns out it wasn't. Here we're going to test the 6U8. First, we're checking it for filament continuity. Then we will rotate this up to 6 volts and give the tube a little bit of time to warm up. And then go into the test 1 position, turn up the sensitivity. Now before I put in the solid state replacement, this would reach that point at about 82, and it's now at about 80. Now I go to test 2, and it used to be 61. And you see now it's reading about 58, which is almost exactly what it's supposed to read. By the way, I know that's a good 6U8. So putting that 83 replacement in there actually improved the calibration of this unit, because I know that this should be a good tube. So it should register. Oh, it looks like it's gone up a little more, which is not unusual as it warms up. The heater and the amount of emission will change as it warms up. So now it's almost right on 57, which is exactly what it should be. Now I don't know what this tube should read on this tube tester, but it does test good. That is in the green range on my Hickok 600A, which I know is calibrated. So it shows you that you can use 15 ohm resistors in that 83 to cut the wattage down, and at least in the B&K it seems to work at least as well as the 83 tube. Well, this series has certainly run a lot longer than I intended, and I realized there were a couple of detours into the swamp there to clear a few alligators, but kind of like to wrap it up. Online you'll find that eBay and places like that, people selling bulbs for tube testers. And generally they start at about 10 bucks for a bulb or two and go up to $25 or $30 for a set of all 5 bulbs, for example. For this set, I think it's 5 or maybe 6. But I had noticed online that also there is a company that sells bulbs. So I thought, well, I read a lot of bad things online, people calling the everything but American stuff junk and so on. So I thought, well, gee, those probably won't work in good American equipment like this. But I ordered some anyway for some other projects, and then I decided to try them in here. Well, the fact is they work fine. I think I'm going to wrap up this B&K 650 project here. I'll give you one last look at it in operation so I can show you what those neon bulbs look like, and then I think I'll call it quits. Back to my trusty 6U8, and I've turned off the overhead light here so you can see a little better how those neons work. By the way, I forgot to mention something earlier. When I calibrated this, the recommended calibration voltage is 115 volts. Well, I tried that, and I eventually decided to raise it to 120 volts for the calibration. The reason is My line voltage here is about 123 volts. So if I want this thing to operate as accurately as possible and still allow some range to the downside, I decided to raise the voltage by about 5 volts to basically 120 volts. So I calibrated it at 120 volts. Seems to be pretty accurate, and relative to my Hickok tester, the readings seem to be very, very close, within about 2 or 3%. So anyway, here is the tester with those new bulbs plugged in. Now you may remember that I had one of those alligator expeditions over this light. At one point I put the unit back together and the light wasn't working. I thought I'd made a mistake. It turns out the old bulb had just burned out. So that is one of those Japanese bulbs. I think it's a number 44 is the type. And then over here, this is the heater continuity. And I think you can see that unlike the American bulb, which has a double wire in there, and both of them glow in the heater continuity position. Both of them glow here as well, but it's harder to see that because that plastic cap kind of diffuses the light a little bit. Now, I don't find that objectionable, but if you do, then you might want to stick to the expensive new old stock bulbs. At any rate, there is the system. You can see that the shorts light didn't light, and now we'll give it a test. Let it warm up a little bit and set it to the lowest position, and I think you can see that it's reading about 74, which on there it says it's supposed to be reading about 73, so I consider that pretty good. Finally, I'd like to show you one of my new acquisitions. Found this at an Ace Hardware store here locally a couple of days ago. What it is a Weller 260 watt soldering gun. It's a dual heat. 200 watts is the low setting, 260 is the high. I've wanted something for a long time that would unsolder those grounding braids and other things in those old radios, and I used to have an American Beauty iron, but it finally went out on me. So I found this. I didn't even know they made them this powerful, but anyway, I'm hoping to use that on some projects in the near future. So that's kind of my latest toy. Seems to work okay, calibrated up okay, and I got it all cleaned up and ready to use. So I'll let you go for now. Hope to see you sometime at another project.